Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Caribbean Cricket Podcast special. You know, sometimes we don't do episodes, we just talk to people, we get guests in and we talk on things that are current in West Indies cricket. For those who are watching on the visuals, you can already see who's with me. I'm going to do the big introduction in a second, but of course, my name is National St. Patrick Hewitt. I'm one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. And with me today, it's the one, it's the only, it's Dario Barthley. Dario, do you know what, Dario? Because I feel like we've been saying your name a lot since Caribbean Cricket Podcast started, but for a lot of the people who will watch this, listen to this, whatever it may be, they'll be like, oh, so this is Dario. This is the Dario you've been talking about all this time. So Dario, let me not even introduce you in the way that myself and Santoki would know you. You introduce yourself, Dario. Who is the world famous Dario Barthley?
Well, I'm not sure about world famous. I want to start off by saying, firstly, thanks for having me. I want to say thanks to both yourself and Santoki. As we both know, I've been involved in the setting up of a lot of these interviews. So once you reached out and you asked me if I was willing to come on, it felt a little bit strange being on the receiving end. However, I was very grateful for the opportunity to do so. You asked who is Dario Barthley, and I firstly want to say in relation to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Dario Barthley is a friend, someone that enjoys taking in the content that you guys have produced and enjoys assisting where I can with getting persons on the show as well. In regard to, just myself and generally in my work, I would say that I'm a lover of sport. I know a lot of people like to lead with their job when talking about themselves, but that's not something that necessarily I like to do, because first and foremost, I'm a person, a human being, a lover of sport, someone that enjoys watching other people smile, watching other people enjoy themselves. And that's the reason why I work in sport, because sport would have brought me a lot of joy as a youngster. And I think that with the things that, I try to do, that hopefully I could bring some of that joy to some current youngsters.
Listen, you know what? You're underselling yourself, because the the reason why I still say famous, because every major event the West Indies, let's say men's cricket team, has been involved in the last year and a half, we see you on TV, with the phone, video in the major highlights, So don't think that we don't see you on our TV screens, when things are going down. But we're actually, believe it or not, people, not here to talk about West Indies. Well, we're here to talk about West Indies. We're here to talk about cricket within the region, but we're not here to talk about the West Indies cricket team, because, as Dario has kind of hinted at in his brief intro there's a lot more to Dario than being part of the setup with the West Indies men's team. And that's why, Dario, kind of wanted you to introduce yourself. And you may want to go into a bit more detail, because your background, in fact, I kind of want you to say it, but would I be right in saying that your background is more in... Is sports management the right word? Would I say business management? You explain, Dario, because I don't want to get it wrong,
So sport management is my thing. I would say that the area of sport management that I've taken the bigger liking to is probably logistics, operational stuff. However, sport management is what I studied and what my bachelor's degree is in. So what we are here to talk about today is the Cool and Smooth T20 tournament. I'm sorry if I took away a little bit from your intro.
No, go for it. Nice segue.
And I would say that this is what I consider my baby. It's where I get to practice all of the things that I experience, all the things that I learn, all the things that I'm told about sport management. And it also gives me the opportunity to work with other young people that may be in similar situations like I was, or in a similar situation to what I am in currently, and just want to practice their skills in terms of sport management. So this year, one of the things that I'm most proud of is the fact that I've been able to build out a team in terms of having um, recognizable people responsible for each area of the Cool and Smooth T20. That's something that I'm very, very proud of, and something that I think sets us up for success in many years to come.
And thank you for the segue, because that was the next thing. And though again, we're well aware on the Caribbean Cricket Podcast that when people tune in, and thank you to all the listeners from all around the globe who tune in, when you tune into these things, whether live or recorded, where we always take the stance that we cannot assume that whoever's listening knows about, or we can't take for granted that everybody knows about things within the Caribbean. And Dario has hinted, or essentially said, what we're going to talk about today, and it's the Cool and Smooth T20. Should I call it explosion, Dario?
Explosion, yes,
Explosion,
Cool
the
and
Cool
Smooth
and Smooth
T20
T20
explosion.
explosion, which is taking place in Antigua as we currently are recording this. In fact, now's probably a good time to put up the table so people can see this. So we are 1 week into the tournament as things currently stand. So people, you can see the points table there. I'm going to take that off the screen in a second, but I just wanted to make people aware that we are literally in the middle of the tournament. It's almost like the break point between week 1 and week 2, which is why I wanted Dario to come on. And Dario, I'm going to come to you because when we talk T20 in the Caribbean, I think people sometimes assume there's CPL and nothing else, right? And Cool and Smooth has been running for a while, quite some
Mhm.
time now. Obviously, COVID has interjected, which kind of put the spanner on the work somewhat. But Cool and Smooth has been running for a while, and actually, Cool and Smooth to me, Dario, is a super critical tournament in the Caribbean. And let me explain why. Because we don't have a Caribbean tournament underneath CPL. Now, don't get me wrong. I like CPL. CPL is our standard bearer competition for the region in terms of the global aspect of it. But in fact, Kyron Pollard, now former West Indies captain, was one of the people who was talking on this particular issue in the last, 3 to 4 months, at the lack of Caribbean competition underneath CPL. And this is where things like Cool and Smooth to me are so important. So, with that kind of initial build up, Dario, talking on the basis that not everyone who's listening to this, and possibly a majority of people listening to this, will even know completely about Cool and Smooth. Give the pitch and let the people know the history of Cool and Smooth and what Cool and Smooth is all about.
Thanks, Marshall. And before I give a little bit about the history, just up front, I want to say that the Cool and Smooth T20 is available for viewing worldwide via our streaming links. So I will ensure that I provide you with those streaming links to ensure that we could get some more eyes on the tournament, because that is the most important thing for us, ensuring that we're not only servicing the cricket fraternity by making cricket available for them to watch, but servicing the players by putting them on a platform to be able to display their skills.
Most
So,
definitely.
as you mentioned, the Cool and Smooth T20 has been going since 2013. 2013 was the first edition. And it's really just the aim to, as you mentioned, fill that gap of T20 or proper T20 tournaments within the region. So we do have a partnership with the St. Kitts Nevis Patriots, for instance, and every year our all-star team endeavors to play at least one match against the St. Kitts Nevis Patriots in Antigua. We've been able to successfully pull that off twice, and we plan to not only pull that off, but invite other CPL franchises in the future. What that has done in the instance of Orlando Baby Peters, and I think that may have been 2014 or 15, selected as a replacement player for the St. Kitts Nevis Patriots or the Antigua Hawks, but I'm not sure which team it was at that point in time, based on his performance against the team in that All Star match. They happened to
Mm.
need a replacement player at a similar time, and he bowled well, batted well, and was in a good position to be that replacement player. And these are the type of, I mean, that obviously is a one off and kind of a fairy tale story, but is the type of opportunities that exist when you do have active T20 cricket within your region. So we have had, since 2013, we had a break in 2020 and 21 due to COVID. Other than that, we've had the tournament in some form every year. And we've had the likes of players like Sheldon Cottrell, um, Kenna Lewis has played, Krishma Santoki has played quite a few years. We've had Shane Mosley, Kian Hardin. These are all people that have been in and around West Indies setups, international cricket, and T20 and even T10 leagues around the world. So we think that in terms of quality, it's a tournament that can rival any domestic tournament, really. And the reason why it's played at this time in the year, and actually, I have to plug his name here, Alzari Joseph, just yesterday was complaining to me and saying why Cool and Smooth T20 is being played when he's not available. So I said to him, well, Alzari, you're at the IPL. You don't need to be playing Cool and Smooth T20. And in the end, actually, we had a discussion and he agreed with me because the reason it's played this time of year is because the big name T20 players are at the IPL, and it just creates an opportunity for the players who are not there to continue working on their T20 skills. We're not saying that this is the tournament that will get you into the IPL, but during this period, with the focus being on T20 cricket, it can't hurt that you're able to play in high level competition as well, develop your skills, and possibly rub shoulders with some players who have been there, have done that. We have players playing in this tournament that have played international T20s for the West Indies. So we view it as a high quality tournament that's beneficial to all of the stakeholders. And that's the manner within which we'll try to push it out to the public.
Most definitely. And I think I think bear with me, Dario, because some of the questions I'm going to ask you are going to come deliberately almost from a position of ignorance, because I'm, like I say, I'm wary of who's listening to this. And this, for some people listening, watching, this may be the first time they're actually properly hearing of Cool and Smooth. So how does the Antigua link work here now, Dario? So would I be right to say that the large majority of players would be from Antigua, or are you pulling from the Leeward Islands in general? Obviously, I know, for example, that you've got George Munsey there, so this is international. It's not specific to just one part of the Caribbean. But in general, what's the makeup percentage of Caribbean players?
So within our rules and regulations, you're actually only allowed 3 overseas players on the field at any particular point in time. So it is still largely a local tournament. It is the way the teams, even the way we get the teams, it's based on the 8 top finishers in the local Super 40 competition. That's what qualifies you for the Cool and Smooth T20 tournament. So it is still local competition, and the influx of the overseas talent, whether that be persons from within the region, more specifically within the Leewards, or persons internationally, as you did mention, George Munsey, who is here playing for the Jennings Tigers and does have an international T20 century. He is that we bring them in order to get that mixture, get that cultural mix as well, but to add quality to the tournament at the end of the day. So any player that Cool and Smooth T20 chooses to bring in, our club chooses to bring in, is obviously meant to be of high quality and meant to add to the tournament, not only from their playing perspective, but even from a social media perspective, as you've seen with George Munsey, and help us to promote the tournament in different parts of the world.
Most definitely. And let me bring up the table again for the benefit of people. So currently, everyone has played 2 games. So we're midway through the tournament. We're into our second week. Well, basically following this interview, we begin the second week of the competition. Now, I want to, before I go into, if actually no, let me go there first. How has the first week of the competition been from your perspective, Dario?
The first week of the competition for me has been excellent, to be honest with you, Michelle. The turnout from the first night has been very impressive. a bigger turnout than we usually see in on the opening week. Not normally people like to come out when it's just about the climax. So
Mm.
we were very impressed with the amount of persons that we were able to bring into the stadia within that first week. Unfortunately, we did have one day of cricket rained out, as you see there in Group Two. Each team will have a no result because it rained all day,
Mm.
and we were unable to play those matches. So the team split 2 points. Um, but as I said, it's been excellent from a organizer standpoint. There's not much more that I could have asked for, not only from the fans who would have turned out, but from the clubs who would have participated and the workers, even more so, I would say, from the workers um, that are assisting with this year's tournament. It's been top notch.
The am I right in saying is the tournament being held at is it at Coolidge this year?
Yes, and that's something I'm sorry I failed to mention. The Cool and Smooth T20 does have a new home this year. Traditionally, we have played at the Sir Vivian Richards Cricket Stadium, and that's for a host of reasons. The Sir Vivian Richards Cricket Stadium is obviously internationally accredited, and we looked at it as an opportunity for the local players to be able to play at an international venue, hone their skills at an international venue. And I always reduce it to, even if one of your friends from Barbados says to a local Antiguan player, "Hey, how does the pitch at Seviv play?" Considering a test match is coming up in Antigua, at least they have the authority to say to them, "This is how the pitch plays," because I've played at least 3 matches in the Cool and Smooth T20 there.
Mm.
However, with the Coolidge Cricket Ground also being internationally accredited and being the home of West Indies cricket and being the place where the Stanford T20 was started, with that more intimate and close atmosphere that we like to associate with T20 cricket, we thought that the move was warranted. So we're very thankful for the persons and the authorities at the Severin Richards Cricket Stadium, and for all the help that they have given us over the years and all the help that they even continue to give in this year's tournament. They've been excellent in assistance. But we are at the Coolidge Cricket Ground, and we are also very grateful for the team at Coolidge Cricket Ground, who is very professional, very helpful, and has assisted us to get this first week of the tournament running. And I'm sure we will get even more assistance from them in the lead up to the climax of the tournament.
So and that's excellent, by the way, Dario. It's great to see that the competition is progressing well. And obviously, I've been catching some of the highlights, reading in Antigua Observer, some of the match summaries, etc. There's one team though I want to focus on more than others, and they're already making a statement. The Liberta Blackhawks. They technically, given that 2020 and 2021 was COVID washed out, so to speak, they're the defending champions. But Dario, every time I look at Antiguan cricket, they seem to win everything. so, so, and now for those who are watching this, you're probably thinking, who are the Liberta Blackhawks and why you mentioned them? Well, Jimbo plays for them. Hayden Walsh Jr. plays for them. I believe, and it's the player I really want to focus on, although maybe not just yet. Kofi James, is he playing for them? And I want to get to Kofi James in a second. But why are Liberta in? Is it Kenny Benjamin or is it Winston Benjamin who's kind of heads up Liberta?
Kenneth Benjamin.
Kenny, yeah, Kenny. So why are Liberta such a good club team? What? Because I can't. To be honest, I'm speaking from a position of ignorance with this, Darren, because I don't know enough about club cricket in Antigua to be able to explain to people why Liberta are so good. But what is it about them and their structures and setup?
Um, if I if I if I had to be completely honest with you, I don't think that I have the authority to talk about Liberta's history, why they're so good, and even the full setup of their club. But I can speak to you from my perspective in terms of what I've seen since I've been involved in local cricket.
Mm.
Liberta has a very rich history, so that probably started somewhere. I don't know if more cricket was played in the village than other villages at a particular point in time that led them to have such good cricketers in the earlier years. But I know that their history has definitely served to keep them there and reinforce that fact. So the players there have a lot of players that are still involved in the club or come around the club or even playing at international level that can inspire them and let them believe that one day they can reach those heights or they can have the same impact, whether it be on international, regional, or local cricket. So I'm one that always thinks that having physical motivation, having an example, is something that helps youths in terms of developing their own skill sets and forging their own paths in life. So I think that plays a part. And then because of that, and they've been successful in local competition for so long, I know that resource wise they're also blessed as well. They're one of the few clubs that has a proper setup in terms of their grounds, having ground staff, having proper covers, having a pavilion, having bathroom facilities, that type of thing. And resources always matter in sport, no matter how much we try to run away from it. I even sometimes look at North American sport where they try to keep the disbursements pretty fair in terms of what you get from TV rights and so forth. And it's normally the bigger commercial markets that do well because they have the
Mm,
bigger commercial pull. They're able to pull in more outside resources and therefore they're able to perform well. That's why there's the LAs, the New Yorks, the
mm, mm, mm.
Miamis. So that's something that I study in sport generally. And I think that that's the similar situation with Liberta. Other clubs will over time be able to build that history by winning a one-off Cool and Smooth T20, winning a one-off Super 50, a one-off two-day. But for now, Liberta is the team that has that flame, and I think that it would be in the other club's best interest to just watch maybe what they have done, how they have invested some of the funds that they've been able to come across, and hopefully be able to mimic it so that we have a host of strong clubs rather than just a few.
Most definitely. And I think at the bowl off, I saw that you had Viv was there, Kirtley was there, Nikhil was there. Got call big Nikhil as well, but the point, if that was Richie Richardson there, I think I saw Richie there as well.
Yeah, so Richie was there, and we did mention the absence of Sir Andy Roberts, who had traveled for an engagement. He's usually there as well. So I just want to say thanks to all 4 nights of Antigua cricket who have been very supportive of the tournament all throughout the years.
Most definitely, and almost because what is a tournament, Dario, without propelling the next generation or the next stars? And you would have heard me say a couple of minutes back the name Kofi James. Now, I'm not for a minute saying that Kofi James is going to be a future West Indian star. I'm not going to put that kind of anchor on him. But what I am saying is this: he was called up to the Leeward Islands team recently, in the last year or so. He's been making. When I've been reading and watching the highlights, I've been noticing his not just him, by the way, but I'm just using him as an example. Been noticing his performances, and I guess my question is twofold, Dario. The first question is, who are the standout players that you've seen thus far? We know that there's a week to go, but just thus far, who's caught your eye? And secondly, here's the catch now, Dario. So obviously, because Cool and Smooth is in Antigua, the franchise that should have their eye on Cool and Smooth more than any other should be St. Kitts and Nevis. However, they're also defending CPL champs, so getting in that side won't necessarily be as straightforward as it might be if St. Kitts had produced one of their usual seasons and ended near the bottom somewhere. But if other CPL franchises were keeping an eye out, and I'd like to believe they have strategy and art on T20 the Cool and Smooth T20, who are some of the players that you would say, that might be worth a gamble getting that player within your squad, knowing that other teams might not have. I guess what I'm saying, Darren, in a roundabout way, is play being a CPL general manager for a second. Who would be the player at the CPL draft you'd be saying, I'm going to take him, maybe you can't answer as well because it might be unfair. But who for those who are watching this, who are the players you'd be like, watch out for this guy?
If I'm being honest with you, and this is gonna sound a little bit like a diplomatic answer, but you're gonna have to forgive me for it. But if I'm being honest with you, I think that what the CPL franchise's eyes should be on is the quality of the tournament. Considering we have CPL players here and even players that have played IPL. Sheldon Cottrell played in this tournament 1 year, and the next year he was bought for over $1 million in the IPL draft. So he couldn't play the tournament. He was not available. So I think that what their eyes should be on is the fact that this tournament has that level of quality in it, that he can bowl to the bowlers here and be good, but not blow them out the water, and then bowl to the bowlers in the IPL and be good as well. And I'm not saying that it's the same quality. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it's not that far off or ridiculous to think that the players here could play in CPL, could play even list A cricket regionally, and could make it into West Indies teams. So even without pointing out any players, you have mentioned Kofi James. I think that if you look within that Liberta Blackhawks team, that there are quite a few solid cricketers in there. And I know that I said I didn't want to mention names, but I would like to mention just one person, Kareem Abbour, because he is a local Antiguan cricketer, but he is quite popular, having played or being a current international player for the USA. So I'm not exactly sure what the rules are regarding associate players and that type of thing, but I just thought that was worth a mention. So if you look within that Liberta Blackhawks team and within other teams within the tournament, I bet there's the Golden Eagles, who is second in that group, who have Naeem Young, who is a current CPL player. The players within his team that have the ability to rub shoulders with him, plan with him, execute with him, be a viable team member option for a Naeem Young, who would have played in the CPL, in the Abu Dhabi T10 and so forth. That means that the quality of the tournament is somewhere up there. So just keep your eyes on the tournament in general. And I think that good performances in this tournament tell you that they have the ability to possibly perform good in further stages of T20 cricket.
And this is the perfect time then, having said that, Dario. What's the specific? I was going to leave it till the end, but actually, because we've just been talking about players, where do people need to go to go and watch this? What's the best? If you're somebody who's listening to this, going, there's a week left of this a week and a bit left of this competition. I want to go watch this and watch some of these names that Dario's talking about, or maybe you heard Naeem Young and you were like, I didn't even realize Naeem Young was playing it. Where should they go, and where should they go, Dario, to get their eyes in this competition?
I think that the best place to intake the tournament would be on our YouTube page. So as I mentioned, Cool and Smooth T20 Explosion 2022. All the matches, definitely from here on out, will be live streamed. The remaining match days are Tuesday. Let me just get the dates as well. So Tuesday, May 3rd, we will have Group 1 in action, and that's the group that has the defending champions, the Liberta Blackhawks. So the New Winthrops Lions will play the Picard's Crushers at 4 p.m. on Tuesday, May 3rd, followed by the Liberta Blackhawks versus the Bethesda Golden Eagles. That's always a big clash. Those are two of the teams that are known to have the bigger fan bases in Antigua. Wednesday, Group 2 will compete. Rising Suns Spartans versus Jennings Tigers at 4, followed by Empire Nation versus the All Saints Pythons. So in that second game, you'll have Matthew Ford of Barbados coming up against Leonardo Julian, who is actually another CPL player playing in this tournament. He's a part of the Trinidad Knight Riders team. Friday, May 6th is the semifinals, and Saturday, May 7th are the finals. And on all of those days mentioned, there will be a live link on the Cool and Smooth T20 Explosion YouTube page for your viewing pleasure, and also CS 2020 to follow us on Instagram for live updates.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think for those of you who like the kind of clicked content of T20, certainly the Instagram page has been certainly updating us in terms of highlight packages for particular players and particular matches, etc., etc. So the content is out there, people, to get your eyes on this competition. And if you are watching this, also If you've got any questions, obviously this is recorded, but if you've got any questions, do put them in the comments below, and I can get to Dario and reply back to you if there's something specific you want to or need to know about how to access whatever it might be with the competition itself. Dario, given the long running success of being able to host Cool and Smooth T20, it begs the following question to me. The other week, I had Dr. Kishore Shallow on, and we were talking about how in the Windward Islands they had effectively been the first kind of part of the region to trial the T10 Dream 11 stuff, and now other nations, islands, countries are starting to mimic it. Jamaica have just had theirs, for example. I guess I ask you this question, and maybe you want to come back to maybe you want to put your sports management hat on here potentially. Why do you feel we can't mimic this? Maybe that's the wrong question, but why do you feel we can't mimic this around the region? So, for example, I'm not saying we must have one in every country. I'm not saying that. But why can't we have the Cool and Smooth brand in Jamaica? Or, in fact, let's use Jamaica because Jamaica's so far away from a lot of the other countries and islands. So, and I know Cool and Smooth is specific to Antigua, so I'm not saying you must move the brand, or I'm more saying why haven't others almost reached out to yourself and those behind Cool and Smooth and said, how do we get this up and running in our country or our nation? Again, you might need to be diplomatic here and sit on the fence, but that's why I said approach it with almost like a sports management hat, because again, Daryl, remember what I said at the top of the interview or the show? We don't have enough Caribbean T20 underneath CPL. And Cool and Smooth is well run. It's got its history, it's established. But that's just in one particular country, successful, I must add. But the Caribbean's a huge reach. Do you see where I'm coming from with this, Dario?
Yeah, definitely. Just like the Vinci T10. I mean, when the Vinci T10 happened for the first time, I was announced for the first time. One of the first things that I did personally, as someone that operates a local tournament, is I reached out to Kishore just to hear the details, just to hear, how some of the planning would have progressed, to get ideas. The Vinci Premier League. I don't wanna be preemptive and say that the Vinci Premier League is a partner of the Cool and Smooth T20 or anything like that, but I definitely have regular conversations with Kishore regarding how we can partner and how we can improve both products. I don't think that necessarily to have a successful T20 in the other countries. Well, I mean, I don't even think I have to say this, but I don't think the necessity is for it to be Cool and Smooth T20. It just has to happen. And I think that each territory does have capable and in most cases willing people that can make it happen. So I can't necessarily answer the question as to why it is not happening. However, what I will say is that if there is any territory, any country, any club, any person that does like the Cool and Smooth branding, appreciates the way that Cool and Smooth operates, and does want to have a similar operation, I am pretty sure that Cool and Smooth would be more than willing to get involved in that and to run it in other Caribbean countries. While Cool and Smooth operates in Antigua, the love for the sport transcends any country, any nation. So that is what is really important to the owners of Cool and Smooth, Amir and his family. And so I would say that that's a door that's definitely open for any country. I wouldn't necessarily try to force my way in and say that it has to be Cool and Smooth branding or has to be Cool and Smooth run, because I do think that there is the ability and the resources available to do it otherwise. But I am willing to lend whatever assistance or put the right things in place so that it can be a Cool and Smooth T20 tournament.
Most definitely. And I think ultimately where I'm coming from with that question, Dario, is that ultimately in the region, we want to provide more cricketing opportunities for the youngsters coming through. And I know there are people who listen to this and say that they're purists and red ball and this, that, and the other. And I hear all that. But the reality is we're in 2022 and white ball cricket is a gateway in or an easier gateway in for a lot of players. And the more competitions that exist is the greater exposure players are going to get. So whether it's a cool and smooth competition in Antigua, and I guess Dario, the competition over the years has provided so much opportunity. Just forget international players now, or three overseas players, whatever the rule might be. It would have provided opportunity for countless Antiguan players, for first and foremost. And to me, that's crucial. That's crucial to not just to earn a living, but to 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 put yourself in a shop window.
Mhm. And that's what's important for us. The opportunities that the players can get from this. So as I mentioned, from an administrative point of view, it's more of a exercise, it's more of a practice, it's keeping ourselves sharp and ensuring that we're always innovative in terms of our application or the way we run the tournament. From a player's perspective, I 100% agree with you. It's that, and even more, it's an opportunity to get into the CPL, get into the GT20 almost directly, because
Mm,
these are the type of players that will be there, or even in some cases will be the star players there. So GT20 and the CPL, I think that there's an obvious direct benefit where you could get into these teams, but it's an opportunity to rub shoulders with players who play in other teams, who work with other coaches, who are part of other setups, who can now put a good word in for you as well. And it's not just about the cricket on the field, but it's about how you interact with these persons off the field and what you offer to a team outside of your batting, bowling, or fielding. So that's exactly what it is for everyone involved. It's an opportunity. It's one big opportunity.
fantastic. And to be honest, Dario, that because I was in my head, I was like, right, let me try and get this to a point where Dario can have the final word and almost sum up what. But you've actually kind of just done it, just um, but ultimately, as you kind of just said there, Dario, this is what Cool and Smooth T20 is about. And again, like I said, I've been saying it through the show for those who are listening, and this conversation with Dario, if it's piqued your interest, do go and have a look at the competition, because again, if there's one thing in the Caribbean that sometimes can be a bit of a frustration, is everybody thinks that, not everybody, a lot of people think that West Caribbean cricket is just whatever is going on with the West Indies and the occasional, I know, Super 50 tournament or CPL tournament, but there is a whole lot of cricket underneath that level. And that's why I wanted Dario to come on here, because unless we amplify it, and cricket is a global sport, and and Dario agrees with me here, so I don't even have to even ask Dario if he agrees, but we can keep ourselves narrow and just assume that we can exist within our own Caribbean ecosystem, or we promote our cricket outwards. And that's almost what Caribbean Cricket Podcast has always been about, promoting our cricket outwards so that more and more eyes can look at the talent and what we're actually doing in the
Right.
region. And that's what ultimately helps the cricket in the region. And with that nice segue, Dario, I now let you have the final words.
Marshall, I just want to say on behalf of the Cool and Smooth T20 brand and tournament, thanks for the opportunity to be a part of the podcast, man. The type of guests that you have had on this podcast, I, this is probably a dream come true for some people to sit and be able to speak to you guys about anything related to cricket. Um, I was actually, as you mentioned, Nikhil is here in Antigua assisting from a broadcast, social media. We spoke about this briefly, so you understand what's going on. But it was just a situation where I felt like it was better to have Nikhil here than not. So a lot of Nikhil's role in the tournament is actually being developed while he's on the ground, and he's just been excellent and extended his arms way further than anyone thought they could go. But I was just speaking to him, and when I told him that I was going to be on Caribbean Cricket Podcast, he said, "You're going to be on it." So I said, "Yeah, I'm going to be on it." He probably thought I was setting up someone else to be on it, but the excitement that Nikhil had in relation to me being on here talking about the Cool and Smooth T20. That alone tells me that the quality is up, because Nikhil is a man of good taste. So thank you for having me. Thank you for having your eyes on the tournament and being willing to get more eyes on the tournament. And I'm very disappointed that Santoki was missing today for my first appearance on the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, but hopefully it won't be the last time. So Marshall, thanks to the viewers, and Cool and Smooth T20 is back and it's here with a bang.
Most definitely. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, like I said at the top, we've been wanting Dario on this for so long. So good to finally get Dario on. And the final thing you must do as I close off this particular special, make sure after this episode, as well as pressing like and subscribing to Caribbean Cricket Podcast, that you make sure you go and follow Cool and Smooth T20 Explosion. Go to the YouTube and go to the Instagram page to keep track of what's going on. When I tune in on Tuesday to see the next set of matches, I want to see lots of people. I want to see that viewing figure ticker. I want to see it going up, indicating that you lot watched this and you went to go and see what was going on in the tournament. Dario, thank you very, very much appreciated. Thank you for taking your time to come on the show. And for those who've been listening, we've been the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Thank you and good night.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rule seems coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.